everyone. I'm Allison. Thank you for joining me for Where I'm From 143 with Micah. Um, what are you reading? I'm reading Quit Like a Woman by Holly Whitaker, The Radical Choice to Not Drink in a Culture Obsessed with Alcohol. And it's all about addiction, sobriety, not drinking, 12-step, all of those things are of interest to me. And she developed her whole sobriety system. Hi,
Hi.
Micah. How are you? What a pretty background.
Thank you. I'm doing well. I had a busy morning dropping my boys off to school, and now I'm here to talk to you, which I'm
Yes.
very excited to.
Same. Um, with my boys. I didn't realize we both had boys.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. Two little boys. They're 6 and 4, so I'm in the thick of it right
You
now.
are in the thick of it. Mine are not so small. Um,
Oh, nice. How many
no,
do you have?
two,
Oh, okay, nice.
two, and they're
Yeah.
teens, so it's very
Okay.
different.
Yeah.
But it's also busy, but just in a different. It's not as physically challenging. It's more emotionally engaging,
Yes.
I would say.
I've heard that from other friends with
Yeah.
teenagers as well. I am sort of like mentally bracing myself, I feel like, for the teenage years
It's
even now.
wonderful, though. I want to
Yeah.
say, I had a
Okay.
friend whose children are about, I guess, 6 or 8 years older than my kids,
Okay.
and she just kept being like, "Oh, it's wonderful. I love them. They're so
Yeah.
great."
Yeah.
Like, and I really appreciated that she said that because it made me less like nervous about it,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's true.
Yeah.
I love them. They're wonderful. You get to hang out with them and you get to see what they are
Yeah.
interested in, and you get to get
Yeah.
interested in those things, and that's such a gift. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's encouraging. I do look forward to that
yes.
as
And you're
well,
the
being able to.
oldest of eight,
I
I saw in your bio.
am.
So, like, you've
Yes,
been through it.
I have. Yeah. As soon as I had my first child, I was like, how in the world did my mother do that?
Well, she had your help.
She did.
That's
Yeah,
a big part of it.
I was very quite involved
Hmm.
as an older sibling with all my siblings.
As you can see in your bio picture, as you're holding your younger brother,
Yeah.
like you can see the love and the care that you had for your siblings. And that, I mean, having an oldest daughter like that, my mother was the oldest of
Oh,
six, and she
okay.
definitely did a lot of caregiving.
Yes. Yeah. It just kind of happens.
I think it does. I
Yeah.
mean, unless you really, really resist, I think it's sort of just, especially being a girl, I think people,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And we were homeschooled too,
oh,
so
wow, I don't, I,
I know. It was quite the quite the concoction of things.
because I'm very much grateful to have people who love and care for my child who are not family, so that my
Yes.
children can learn that it's safe other places, besides
Yeah.
here. And yeah, I mean, I applaud people who homeschool, but for me, it felt essential to have other people involved in the learning process.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, same here. Our son is in school. I mean, I appreciated there were aspects of homeschooling that I
Yeah,
really enjoyed. Like I think
yeah,
the ability to kind of curate a little more
for
what
sure.
you're learning and really see what your
Hmm.
kids kind of like take an interest in and are
Yeah.
passionate about, but on the other hand, I feel like my education also suffered a lot because I wasn't really able to finish high school or
Hmm.
anything like that. So, yeah, it was an interesting balance of things.
Well, and I feel for me, at least, I went to public school until college, and I felt like that's the largest cross section of people I ever knew. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it had its challenges, of course, because it's to find people that you relate to, you have something in common with when you're just inundated with people.
yeah,
But I also think it was really powerful to be in a situation where I was in community with people who I potentially had nothing in common with. So I
yeah,
think, there's pros and cons to it, but it definitely was the most diverse group of people I knew in
yeah,
lots of ways,
yeah.
you know.
That's really cool. Yeah, I'm kind of as an adult now, I'm looking at going back into study. And actually,
Mhm.
I mean, the reason I'm chatting to you today, I think, is because of my cousin Blake, who
Yes.
did a live with you already,
Yes.
which is so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like so grateful that he kind of told me about you and passed
Yeah.
on my name. That was so kind of him. And
Yeah.
it's so great that yeah, learned about you through him, because it's been so cool just seeing this project and all the poems. It's like such a
Yeah.
cool idea. And yeah, reading like there's so many I've read as well that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is giving me memories, like taking me back.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was Blake and I have kind of reconnected a little bit in the last couple months. And yeah, he's kind of studying as well. And so
Yes.
now, because of my homeschooling experience, I would love to study again. But yeah,
Hmm.
just have to kind of figure out how that works with being a parent and having young kids, and balancing life and
Yes.
surviving. But yeah, that's something I'm kind of interested in
And
maybe
life is
pursuing in the
long,
next few years.
hopefully. I will say,
Yeah,
life is long.
yeah,
So you have
yeah,
time. Like, you don't have to do it all today.
yeah,
If you want to, you can,
yeah.
but you also don't have to.
Right,
So,
yeah. Which I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of pressure. I feel like it's kind of unspoken, but
yeah,
it does feel like there's often pressure to kind of have that all, out of the way in your 20s, and then
for
so
sure.
yeah, but I
And
don't know. We'll see.
me and my friends, as our children age, especially certain friends, we talk about the pressure I think that society puts on you. Like, oh, your kids are older, so now what are you going to do with yourself?
Yeah,
And it's like, oh, leave me alone.
yeah,
Like, back off.
yeah,
Like, as I'm doing plenty of unpaid labor. Even if my children aren't the bulk of that unpaid labor, I am still doing lots of it. So don't worry
yeah,
about me and what I'm doing with my time.
yeah, for sure.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
So
I'm I'm reading a book at the moment actually called Emotional Labor
yeah,
by, I think it's Rose, I forget her last name.
we're
Maybe Heckman.
doing a lot of it.
Yeah. Anyway, that book is very insightful on, yeah, just the emotional labor that
Hmm.
particularly women
Hmm.
do. And it's very interesting, very eye-opening, and yeah, resonating
Yes.
with a lot of it.
And I just recently saw an article and I haven't read it. It was one of those things that floats by, that I'm like, oh, I should read that, talking about how women are like basically our social safety net is
Yes,
us.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, yeah, a big load when you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There should be structural safety
Yeah,
nets, not
yeah.
personal. I hope you know someone who can help you out with safety nets. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So I have no doubt you're doing a lot, Micah. So do you want to read your poem?
Sure, I would love to. So, where I'm from, um, I'm from bare feet buried in sparkling sand and surf wax scented vehicles. I'm from jandals left in broke down vans and spuds baked in glowing coals. I'm from fresh caught fish, pan fried until crispy, from pain dutifully swallowed. I'm from river forts built on no man's land, up the creek without a paddle. I'm from Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boys, Anne of Green Gables, Tintin. I'm from home remedies that seem to work and scripture memorization. I'm from hippies and always running late and Saturday market stalls. I'm from just have faith, don't answer back, and pride comes before a fall. I'm from laughing until my sides simply ached and weeping into pillows. I'm from musty pews of well-meaning souls, salt rubbed into wounds. I'm from little grace and saving face, from covering up and dressing down. I'm from feuds that last and love that fades, like the glow of the sun going down. Thank
How
you.
beautiful. Yeah. That was gorgeous and so much emotional. It was so emotionally resonant for me because it's, you tap so well into the joy of shared life and being a child, and also the pain of
Yeah.
the things we can't talk about and the things we carry with us and the shame and all of that. And
Hmm.
it was really powerful to
Yeah,
me.
thank you.
Hmm.
It was fun.
And surf wax.
It was very fun to write.
No one has written about surf wax.
Oh,
So that was something that I also had around me. So I was
yeah.
like, oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's just that smell will stick with me
Hmm.
forever. I think that
Yeah.
like,
And the
yeah, my,
feeling of it too.
yeah. My dad's a surfer, so yeah, he's surfed all his life and he still surfs now, which is
Yeah.
inspiring, I
Yeah.
think. I love that he still
Yes.
is out there in the ocean. I mean, he's, yeah, almost 60,
Hmm.
but and stays very active doing that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I kind of have this sort of tie to the ocean that I think I'll never
Me too.
break. It's always, it just feels like it's a part of me. But living now in Canada, I'm kind of away from that, and so I miss it a lot. But I've also grown to love like the lakes here and the beauty that's
Yeah.
here as well. But yeah, yeah, it
I
was a
think
very,
they're relatives, right?
yeah,
The lakes, I feel like they're relatives of the ocean. And so you can kind of see, I feel like the ocean's my family, which is sort of, I think, what you're saying as
yes,
well. Like that,
yes,
and
yeah,
so then lakes, I lived near a Great Lake when I was in my 20s. And I was like, well, you're not the ocean, but you're in the same
totally.
family. So I
Something
appreciate you being
a
here.
body of
Yeah.
water. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just need to be near a body of water. And yeah,
Me too.
at first I was, yeah, very like, I missed the waves and the, the motion
And
that
the
the ocean
salt.
has, the lakes. Yeah, the salt, the feeling of just diving into that water and coming out is so like invigorating. But yeah, I've come to find a lot of joy in the lakes as well, and appreciate their stillness and the clearness sometimes. Yeah, they're
Yes,
beautiful
that's
here.
true.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, that the poem was very fun to write. It definitely took me back to lots of childhood memories, which is funny that writing kind of taps into that. Because I mean, yeah, often smell connects me to those memories, and I found a lot of that moving here to Canada because I lived in Australia prior to
Oh,
living
okay.
here, and that's very dry and kind of
Yeah.
like humid.
Hmm.
But here there's a lot more greenery and the same kind of smells like that I experienced in New Zealand growing up in
Hmm.
rural New Zealand. So um, that has been fun living here and just being connected back to a lot of those memories, which kind of played into this. But yeah,
Isn't it fun when a smell shows up and it's totally different, like you're saying, in
yes,
Canada, but it's a smell from New Zealand? Like that
totally. Yeah,
um, is a fun surprise,
it
I think.
was fun because yeah,
Hmm.
living in Australia, I was there for 10 years and that became home. But like moving here, I was just had these flashback experiences that I had not had in like so long that took me straight back to New Zealand, which was just crazy. And it's crazy how that works.
Hmm. And have you taken your kids to New Zealand? Like, have they
um,
experienced it?
I've taken my oldest, he was only 6 months
Mm.
though, so he doesn't, yeah, really remember. It's tricky living so far away. And then, yeah, because kind of travel has become like a thing we'll just factor into our lives for the rest of our lives, I think. But
Hmm.
yeah, and then finance, like saving up for those trips every
Hmm.
couple of years. I went home to New Zealand in December, which was really great, and saw my family, my giant
I can
host
only
of a family.
imagine if you have
Yeah, all
seven
my
siblings.
siblings.
Hmm.
Yeah, which was great. But yeah, we would love to do a trip with my husband and my boys as well, where they can kind of remember it and get some of those, visit some of the places that I hold so dear. So yeah, I will
Um,
hopefully go back in the next couple of years.
and do they all are they all there except for you,
Um,
or have you
I have,
gone out? All of you
yeah,
left.
I have one. I have two sisters in Australia. So
Okay.
now, yeah, three of us live abroad, and the rest of my family are in New Zealand. So parents and yeah, parents and the rest of my siblings.
So, what was it like writing the poem? Or so you came across it from Blake,
Yeah,
the prompt, or how did that work?
yeah.
And
So
then you.
Blake sent me the prompt and told me about his
Hmm.
interview with you, which I
Hmm.
watched his poem, and his poem like really
Hmm.
spoke to me because we
Hmm.
obviously have shared upbringing. We both lived
Hmm.
on our grandparents' farm like for a
Okay.
period of time.
Hmm.
So reading his was just so, yeah, such an experience. Like
Hmm.
hearing his some of his memories really like stirred up my own, and
Hmm.
so it was
Hmm.
so fun to just kind of delve into that. But yeah, I got into um, I don't often write like rhyming poems.
Yes,
Well, I kind of
but you
experiment.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
with this. I mean, I when I started out writing poetry, I used to write rhyme a lot. But
Sure. Me
yeah, for
too. I
some,
think that's what I thought poetry was when I
yes,
was, in my
totally.
tweens. Like it
Totally.
has to rhyme.
Yeah.
That's what makes it poetry.
Nursery rhymes,
Yeah,
right? That's where we get that first
it's true.
idea of like
That's
the
like that's.
rhyming
I
couplets.
hadn't thought of
Yeah.
that, but that is why, right? And
Yeah,
I think also, early poems were introduced too.
for
It's like,
sure. And yeah, I've written songs a bit
mm,
too. So as a songwriter,
mm-hmm,
kind of, that
mm-hmm,
rhythm and yeah, the rhyme can really work for that. But for some reason, yeah, I've explored more just kind of free form poetry in the last
yeah,
few years. But writing this, I don't know, it just seemed to really work with
mm-hmm,
like this. Like I had that first verse first, the bare feet buried. That was the
mm-hmm,
first line that came to me. And then it just had that rhythm to it. So I was like, I may as well just try and go with that for the entire poem, which I managed to do. But it was really fun to, yeah, try and incorporate the rhyme and with every second verse, I guess, because if I did it in every verse, I think it
too
sounded a
much.
little too, yeah, too
Mm-hmm,
much.
mm-hmm.
So,
No, I think it's beautiful because it's kind of a nice nod to where we're from. I think
yeah,
many of us grew up with, like you say, nursery rhymes, and so you're nodding to it, but you're not like, really hitting it hard. It's a
yeah,
nice balance, I
yeah,
think. I
thanks.
appreciated it.
Yeah,
And it takes
thanks.
you a minute to realize it's happening, which is always nice too. I
Yeah,
think I like it
yeah,
when I'm reading something and it's like, oh, this is happening.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not so heavy
So
handed.
forced or
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it can sound a little, I don't know, it's a fine balance between cheesy and powerful. Like, I don't know. It's an interesting, but that was,
Yeah.
yeah, it was fun to write. And a lot of my family has read it too, actually, which was
Oh,
cool. They were
that's
kind of,
lovely.
yeah, to
Well, if
hear their
any of
different,
them want to join me, let me know because I
yeah,
dream of having different family members on, and you and Blake are the closest because I just think family members will have different memories, like or
totally. Yeah,
different things that they choose, and I'm sort of fascinated by the nature of memory and what
yeah,
sticks with us and doesn't. So I'm always like, invite your siblings, please tell them,
yeah,
or
yeah.
your cousins,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
like,
There's actually a lot of people in my family who love writing. Like my mum is probably where I got a lot of my
mm-hmm,
love for creative writing from. She writes, and then my uncle, like he studied English in uni and
mm-hmm.
um, teaches. I'd be
Well,
curious to
let them
hear
know or
him
send
write
them the
something. Yeah,
prompts. If
I
only you
will. I
get to
will.
read it, at least you
Yeah,
get to read it. But
yeah,
I think
yeah,
I would love a little family that I could experiment
yeah.
on.
Totally. Our family is a large one, so I'm sure we could get another
Right,
member
that's
pulled in
true.
here.
It's like, tell me your memories,
Yeah.
because yours and Blake's poems are different, but there is like overlap.
Totally. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think that religious
Yes.
aspect for us
Mm-hmm.
was both it was really cool to hear his experience because we had vastly different like even hearing him write about that was a revelation to me because we haven't talked much about that but I was kind of like the religious good girl as a
Mm-hmm.
as a kid and like
Mm-hmm.
got into that side a lot more and Blake kind of opted out of that
Mm-hmm.
probably a lot earlier than I did. So it was fun to kind of chat about that and where we are now, which was interesting. But yeah, it was so fun to write actually. And it reminds me, have you read the book Educated by Tara
Yes.
Wester? Yeah, I read that like a year or so ago and reading her experience, like I
So did that
resonated a
resonate with
lot
you?
with that because yeah, a lot of it was similar to like her upbringing was
Mm-hmm.
just with that kind of extreme religious,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, ideology
Mm-hmm.
and the way that played out in her actual life. And then with
Mm-hmm.
education and stuff, yeah, there was a lot that I resonated with.
Really incredible what she managed to achieve with
I
education.
know,
I was
yeah,
blown
yeah,
away by
yeah,
her, like, just continue, like, I don't know, to find that place in yourself that you're like, I'm doing this thing, in spite
totally.
of, uh, and are you also, is your background also Mormon or it's a different thing?
It's not Mormon,
Okay.
just Christian, like, yeah, sort of charismatic
Mm-hmm.
Pentecostal, but that
Yeah.
can sometimes border on, yeah, there's a lot of fundamentalism in that too.
And
So,
were you also selling essential oils? That was also funny to me because that
oh
was
my
like,
goodness. I
oh,
grew
because
up,
if you've
like,
had any
that's the
interaction
hippie.
with
Yeah.
those, you're like, oh, this makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
The
essential
hippie,
oils kind of
yeah, the
healing
hippie line
everything.
in there.
And I mean, I have some of the hippie stuff
Yeah.
and also the like healing things. And I
Yeah.
gave birth at home. And so you interact with a lot of those kinds of people,
Totally.
and it's interesting how if you want to sort of pick and choose, which I do, it's like they don't like that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like I do want to give birth at home, but I also do want to like take my child to a
Totally.
doctor.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a bit of that in me too, because I had both my boys at the hospital, but it was like a women's hospital and I had
Hmm.
midwives and I had them in
Hmm.
the water.
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
like,
Oh yeah, the
yeah, we
water.
just
Hmm.
kind of, yeah. Yeah, and the way she also was able to kind of go back into her memories that way too. I was like, that is a feat in itself. Like,
Yeah.
I know from growing up with that many siblings, and then, yeah, hearing everyone remember things differently too was, but I liked how she included that in her book with some of
Yeah,
her
I found it
siblings
very
had
powerful.
differing
I know
memories.
some people have said that they thought it was that she's fabricated some
Oh,
of those memories.
okay. Yeah.
And I thought that I didn't feel that way at all.
Yeah.
I thought it was actually really I have four brothers
Yeah.
and I guarantee that none of us think the same thing
Yeah.
about anything.
Yeah. It
Um,
actually changed my perspective with my siblings. Like,
mhm,
I was curious to talk to them afterward about memories I have, and even
mhm,
since it's kind of enriched and, yeah, kind of impacted the way I've thought about some of my own memories and how
mhm,
my siblings think about it. But
mhm.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I loved it, and I just thought it was. I just when people said they didn't believe it, I was like, "So do you have a big family? Did weird things happen
Yeah.
there?" Because I do believe it.
Yeah. And some of those memories, I mean, like, yeah, there's some, I mean, obviously some trauma in there, and those
Yeah.
kinds of memories do have a way of
Oh, for
sticking
sure.
with you for life.
Yes.
That, yeah,
Yeah.
even, yeah. So yeah, I would agree. I believed her.
Yeah. I didn't even cross my mind. Like I don't know. I
Yeah,
just felt so. All of it felt so. Like her journey felt so rooted in just something that felt true to me,
totally.
and that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then the way she was able to kind of approach, yeah, the very challenging dynamic with their parents that yeah,
Hmm.
really resonated with me too, where yeah, kind of asking those questions like, how do you reconcile that with, yeah,
Hmm.
the ways you've been brought up, but if you're to move on from that and then still returning to those people and interacting with them, yeah, it was just, I don't know, such a good book.
Hmm.
I got
Yeah, and
so
I think it's spoken to a lot of people who don't have the voices themselves to say those things.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and the way she writes too, like there was a lot of, even though it's memoir, I don't know, I just found it like so
Yeah.
poetic too. And
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know.
I
I'm
agree.
a raving fan, obviously.
That's good though. I mean, I think that's every author's dream. So that's
Yeah,
lovely to hear. And I mean, books, I talk about it a lot. They were my friend. They were the thing that showed me there was a whole other life and
yeah,
choices and
yeah.
ways to be. And I still feel that way about
I
books.
do
Like
too.
they give you a window into a world that maybe provides a mirror, but or shows you something you didn't know anything about.
For sure.
That's also
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, as someone who kind of like had to forego education, I've found
Mhm.
like that yeah, that is kind of opened up to you
Mhm.
in books if you're willing
Mhm.
to read. And then yeah, sometimes I'm overwhelmed by the number of books out there and the number of people that are writing books. I'm
I
like, oh
know.
my goodness, I could study, like I could read
I
books
know.
my entire life and still not scratch the surface
I
of,
know. And when you said, "Have you read?" I thought, "Oh no, I'm gonna have to say
yeah,
no," because there's just so. Even though I've read so many books, there's
yeah,
just so many more.
yeah,
So I've read
sure.
it, and I
Yeah,
always feel
yeah,
like, yes, I've read the thing that they're
yeah,
talking about because I still want to be an A student.
yeah,
That was the person I was, Micah.
yeah,
You were at home, I was at school, like just trying to do it
yeah.
perfect. And I still,
Trying to get all the A's.
reckon with her. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
still
yeah,
she's there, and I'm like, I know, I see you.
yeah, yeah,
We don't have to get an A. It's okay.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I love that you're always reading. That's something that is inspiring. That, and I'm always like up for hearing book recommendations because yeah, I just think there's so much to be learned from books,
There
different
is.
experiences. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I do find it a struggle, like as yeah, just to find time. Like I'm always reading like 3 or 4 different books, slowly making my way. I've got
Mm-hmm.
one on Audible right now, like
Yeah,
5 beside my bed.
yeah.
I'm just trying to like yeah, and that's something I've had to be kind to myself about too. Like,
Yes.
it doesn't matter what or
Yes.
how much you're reading, as long as you're kind of making your way through it. And to finish a book now, I feel so accomplished.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes. And I would say my biggest piece of advice with that, when you have children that age with reading, is
yes,
if you don't want to read the book, don't read it. Don't
that's good
feel like
advice.
you have to finish it. You have
Yeah.
my approval
Okay.
for not
Yeah.
reading it. Because I feel like so many times we get stuck on a book we feel we should read because it's important
In
or
the
someone
queue.
recommended
Yeah.
it or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just not for us
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, that's great advice. Because even that is like, oh, I
yeah,
started this. I
I
should
know.
finish it.
No,
Like,
no,
yeah,
no. Just pick
that
up
A
another book.
student
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah. Just pick up another book. And it doesn't mean the book you put down is bad. I always
Yeah.
want to say that to people.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's just not for me right now. And
Yeah.
that was the thing I really had to do when my kids were small because my brain was,
Totally.
felt like it was a different texture. It was
Yes.
not
That's a good
able,
word. A
it's like,
different
oh,
texture.
I can't do that. And that really helped. And you want to kind of like escape into something when your
Totally.
kids are
Yeah.
that small. So, and you don't
Yeah.
know what
And
it'll be, but
I
that's what the
know.
library's for, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Go get a pile
Yeah.
of books and see which one
Actually,
speaks
this
to you.
this is a good time at the moment for me to read poetry, which has been great. Like, to get into,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like, I can read a couple poems
hmm
before bed, or
hmm
something like that, and that I found really great, because just these short little bites, of like,
Yeah.
which is great, because I've wanted to read more poetry,
hmm
and I yeah, just started doing that. I'm reading Naomi Shihab Nye at the
Oh,
moment.
yeah.
I love
hmm
her.
Yeah.
So I've got her book Words Under the Words, and I'm, yeah, slowly
hmm
making my way through that. But I love her writing. It's very
Yes.
inspiring.
Yes.
Yeah.
And essays. I think that's when I started really liking essays too, like collections of
Oh
essays.
yeah.
That was like, and then you get to pat yourself on the back before you finish the books. Like, oh, I finished that essay,
Yeah, totally.
like, I needed I needed the
Little
little piece of
achievable
cheese.
bits.
Yeah. I needed,
Yeah.
okay, it's 2 more pages to the end of this essay. So
Yeah, yeah.
um, I needed that. So,
Yeah. That's cool.
so you told me about the experience. Well, anything else about the poem? I want to make sure that you say everything you wanted to say about the poem, the experience of writing it, and
Yeah.
anything else.
Um, I think the only other thing that I was really had on my mind when I was writing it was,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like you said, that kind of mixture of these memories that are so dear to me, and so kind of
Mm-hmm.
tied up in like magic, the just looking back, we can tend to like romanticize a lot of things, but I think there were moments in my childhood that I outline in this poem that really were magical, like by every sense of that word, I think. But then there was also a lot of, yeah, hardship and
Mm-hmm.
challenge and relational kind of
Mm-hmm.
trauma going on,
Mm-hmm.
which, from reading, I know is not an experience that's exclusive to me. I feel like everybody kind of experiences that to some degree. But um, yeah, I think some of those things that I tried to tie in, like, um, just have faith, and
Mm-hmm.
don't answer back, and yeah, kind of just playing with that idea of faith and kind of trusting blindly, but also that don't answer back kind of spoke to um, the idea of, I don't know, I kind of grew up with this inherent idea that my own like emotions and self couldn't really be trusted, and it was more the spiritual aspect that was kind of
Mm-hmm.
highlighted in our family,
Mm-hmm.
and was kind of like most valuable on the hierarchy of like
Mm-hmm.
what made you a valuable person was like
Mm-hmm.
this faith and this trust in God. And um yeah, so I don't know, I kind of wanted to tie that in a little bit, but yeah, the laughing until my side simply ached and then weeping into pillows kind of
Mm-hmm.
was that dynamic as
Yeah.
well, where, yeah, my
Yeah.
family experience, like, we laughed so much together, and there's still no one really that can make me laugh as much as like my siblings, where we're just,
Mm-hmm.
your sides are aching, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same time experiencing, yeah, so much pain from just my parents split up too when I was 13, so they separated, and then yeah, there's been lots of just fracture, I think, between
Mm-hmm.
like grandparents and kids, and
Mm-hmm.
so the pain that that caused. But I don't know, just being able to hold those things
Mm-hmm.
intent like
Mm-hmm.
together, and Naomi speaks about that a lot actually, which I appreciate, just that pain but also
Mm-hmm.
joy that we have in
Mm-hmm.
our experiences. Um, and I think I just wanted to highlight that
I
in the
think you
poem.
really did.
Yeah,
I
the
mean, it
balance.
came across to me so strongly that
Yeah, that's cool.
both are true.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it's kind of hard. I mean, I've done some therapy as an adult. You know, you try to
Me
heal these
too.
things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the things that caused trauma or whatever, but at the same time, like it's all part of who you are and why you
Yeah.
are who you are. So I don't know. It's yeah, it was a fun and sort of yeah, really good. It was healing, I think, for me to write
Oh,
too. Yeah,
that's
in that way, where just
wonderful.
yeah, learning not just looking back on the things that were really hard and painful, but I think poetry helps you do that too. Bring out the things that brought joy and that I still value now. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I think it was healing.
And I think with poetry too, it's little bite size. Like it's, I think sometimes you can go deeper because it's a smaller, I don't know, ask.
Yeah,
Like you can really dig
yeah,
because you're just there for just a minute, just a second,
yeah.
and
That's true.
and then you're
Yeah,
on to something else. And
yeah,
um, I feel that in your poem.
yeah,
And I want to say one other thing that stood out to me because I related to this was home remedies that seem to work.
yeah,
That sort of because I did lots of alternative
yeah,
things and
yeah.
they do seem to work until they don't.
Totally.
And
Until they don't.
so it is hard to say like, oh, but what about,
Yeah,
it's like, well, just, have more faith or the problem, I'm guessing you had some of this, like, it's our fault. Like if the
for
thing
sure.
isn't working, like
Yeah,
you don't have enough
you didn't
faith
have
or
enough faith, or
you
yeah,
haven't erased enough of your ego in my
yeah,
case, like, um, and that is something that I have really had to reckon with as I've aged, like trying to
yeah,
find that balance of believing in things that I can't like see or prove, but also like
yeah,
there are these things that I can prove and see, and those are also important.
for
It's
sure.
not just a whole like dive off the cliff.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
The one
it's gonna be
extreme
okay.
or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't think I saw. Yeah, we didn't see doctors much
Right.
unless it was like an actual, like a break. So that's why
Yes.
Tara's story, I really related to that because I was like, oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this was not just us. Like there, yeah, this
Mm-hmm.
mindset is really interesting, and
Mm-hmm.
this mistrust of yeah, institutions, or
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, doctors, and the
Well, and I think
conspiracy
it's also
theories.
partially not in wanting to let other people in too.
Yeah,
Like you want to stay the author of your own story and you're concerned about other people
that's true.
taking
Yeah,
over authorship.
yes. And I see that in like my parents' decision to homeschool. Like largely it was because they wanted to, yeah, I guess be able to control what we were learning, and have it align with their values and their faith and stuff, which is makes complete sense. But in other ways, I feel like our lives were very like insular and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like isolated, and
Mm-hmm.
I like you were saying earlier, like I value community now, and just
Mm-hmm.
like differing experiences and
Mm-hmm.
different point of views, and I think that's important to give my kids like that
Mm-hmm.
exposure to people that think
Mm-hmm.
differently, and yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, what a journey you've been on
Yeah,
in your life.
yeah,
You've come a
yeah,
long way physically and
yeah.
metaphorically.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like traveling was my first step actually, like
Yeah.
leaving my small
Mm-hmm.
town because
Mm-hmm.
I loved it there, and now I realize like it was idyllic really. Like I just grew
Mm-hmm.
up taking that for granted, that
Mm-hmm.
coast and
Mm-hmm.
untouched beauty of New
Mm-hmm.
Zealand, but I really did crave um yeah, just some it felt like there wasn't a lot of change or progress in my small town, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone kind of was just doing the same thing they'd always done, um and I don't know, as a young person just felt like there was so much out there that I wanted to like experience. And I remember my first job was like working as a checkout chick at the grocery
Mine
store, and there was a lovely lady
too.
there. Oh,
Hmm.
really? Nice. Yeah, bagging the groceries.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
actually got to be a cashier, which I don't know. I really like cash registers. There's
yeah.
something very
It was
satisfying
fun. I
about
was a
it.
cashier too. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I really enjoyed that.
yeah,
But like I didn't want to do it for the rest of my life.
totally.
You know.
And I being like in a small town, you kind of get to know everyone,
Yeah.
right? Like in the town, everyone has to come do the groceries, so you're kind
Hmm.
of like you're known to everyone as well. It's
Hmm.
like the face there. Um, and but there was a lady there who I loved. She was very lovely, but she had been working in that supermarket for like 25 years, and she was
Yes.
late into
Same.
her 50s.
Same.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I don't know, for some reason, I just, no offense to her, but yeah, I saw that and I was like,
Hmm.
I want to do something different.
Hmm.
I don't want to be doing this thing at like 50 years from now. I would
Hmm.
love to, there's just so much experience. And so, yeah, I left New Zealand and moved to Australia, and that's where I fell in love and met my husband. And then now we're ultimately here in Canada. So, yeah, but I do miss it. I do miss my family and
Hmm.
New Zealand for sure. The coast and the beauty there. I miss it a lot.
I can
Um,
imagine. I've never
yeah,
been, but everyone who's been there who knows me says I would love it because I love the ocean and I love the mountains and I
yes,
love all of that. And they're like, oh, you would,
totally.
but it's a journey,
Yeah,
like you say, and
yeah,
it's not cheap, so
for
it
sure.
hasn't happened.
Yeah, yeah,
But it is there in my consciousness
yeah,
as a place I would like to go. So I'm sure you
totally.
miss it. It's where you're
Yes,
from.
yeah, I do. Yeah, if you ever do go,
Oh,
let me know and I'll
okay,
send
I'll
you some
reach out.
places to visit.
Yeah, yeah.
Blake can too, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
well,
it's
that's very
beautiful.
kind. Well, thank you, Micah. Any other last thoughts before we wrap up? This has been a real pleasure. Thank
Yeah,
you for
I don't
joining
think
me.
so. I don't think so. That was, yeah, it
Okay.
was really lovely to be able to meet you
Yeah,
and to read my
same.
poem. I'm very honored to be, yeah, included in this project because
Oh,
it's so cool what you're
good.
doing. And
Thank
I'll
you.
definitely be following along. And if it ever turns into an anthology,
I
I
hope
will
it
definitely
does.
be
I
getting
mean,
it.
that's my hope.
Yeah,
Like, but I just, it's just a dream. Like,
yeah,
I'm not writing a book proposal. Like,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not there. I'm just like
yeah.
putting it out there and saying, because I just think it would be beautiful to see them all together.
Totally, yeah. And there's been so many cool ones. It's just so cool touching on those memories of, yeah, that
Yeah.
would be
And
such a
I'm
treasure
really
to have.
like touched every time somebody says, yes, I'd love to do like it has a lot of
Yeah,
meaning for me because no one's getting paid. Nobody, like it's just people are just doing it because they feel this call to
yeah,
share this piece of
yeah,
themselves. And that
yeah. And that's the
feels
beauty of art
sacred
too,
in
right?
some way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
I feel very grateful for the opportunity to do this every week.
Yeah,
It like has become sort of a guidepost of my life.
yeah,
And I realize how much it means to me when like one week it doesn't happen for some reason. I'm like, but wait,
yeah,
this is what I do every week.
yeah, yeah,
So thank you for being a
yeah.
part of it. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This is
Yeah.
amazing.
Okay. Well, thank you. Bye.
Bye.